Oh yeah, this video is a success. Honestly, I feel so motivated. I'm expecting my next video to come out very soon. Well, this is it. I've spent all the money I made on stupid Fortnite skins I'll never use. Also, I've run out of budget. I'm done for. There's nothing that could save me now. Unless I make a new video for Halloween. Something I'm passionate about and that I don't talk about often. Something really fitting for the Halloween season and that my viewers would enjoy. I should make a video about Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, yeah, no, that definitely makes more sense here. Something that has defined my love for horror, despite not being a topic I discuss often, is the Friday the 13th series. More specifically, its slasher villain, Jason Voorhees. I had an entire phase where my only interest was Jason Voorhees. My character looked like Jason, my username referenced Jason. I literally bought a cheap mask so I could custom paint it following Big Hush's videos. If that doesn't tell you I know game, then I don't know what does. Anyway, Jason has recently made his long-anticipated return under the new brand Jason Universe, with a redesign, a short film, and a few gaming collabs. Now, I've seen the new design and watched Sweet Revenge a few times, but it didn't really spark anything in me other than a few posts on Twitter. Ironically, what actually got me hyperfixated on the topic again was the Fortnite collab. You see, I've been playing it with my buddies for a little over a year now, and being able to play as Jason motivated me to rewatch some of the old movies alongside my partner.
Hello.
More specifically, Part 2, Part 3, the final chapter, and Jason Lives. I do not care for a new beginning, and you certainly could not pay me to rewatch Part 1. Now, the video was originally going to be about Part 6 and why I think it's the best movie in the series. And while I still kind of hold that opinion, my priorities changed once I rewatched the 2009 remake alongside a few friends. Do I think that is the best movie? No, not at all. But its depiction of Jason Voorhees has stuck with me so much that I genuinely cannot stop thinking about it. Which brings us to this video. So let's get into it. The early 2000s, that nostalgic era where every mascot was redesigned to appeal to modern audiences. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Crash Bandicoot, and of course, Friday the 13th. Now, this movie is actually a remake of the first 3 parts of the Friday series, seeing as Jason didn't get his iconic hockey mask until the 3rd one. We start with a monochromatic, cold opening. Under the pouring rain, Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother, chases a camp counselor into the woods, blaming the girl for her son's death while attempting to attack, only to get her own head cut off with a machete. A young Jason then walks up to his mother's corpse, collecting her necklace and the weapon she was killed with. Pamela's voice echoes in Jason's mind, giving him one simple task.
Kill for mother.
While being very short, this scene perfectly explained Jason's backstory and motives. He was drowned at a summer camp, and while presumed dead, Pamela seeks revenge on the counselors who neglected him, resulting in her own demise. Now Jason roams the woods with the objective of avenging his poor mother. It's very simple, but super effective. The movie doesn't waste any time and immediately introduces us to a group of college kids who go camping near the abandoned Crystal Lake. We get a bit more exposure about Jason's story through urban legends, just in case the opening wasn't clear enough, while also allowing us to learn what each character is like. There's the horny teenage couple, a know-it-all geek, and a final girl with at least a shred of common sense, accompanied by her cute boyfriend. In poor words, it's the perfect setup for a traditional Friday movie. On top of everything, we get to see the spooky kill house, which contains none other than Jason's childhood bed, the necklace from the opening, and a creepy shrine in the wall containing his mother's decapitated head. If you think this is all happening a little too fast, you'd be correct, because the group is taken out one by one, culminating in the final girl's implied death. Yeah, the past 20 minutes is the actual cold opening. And if you've seen the original movies, then you'll recognize that everything we've seen so far is actually an adaptation of both Part 1 and Part 2. This is really smart and allows for the story to focus on Part 3. If you really want to know what happens in the rest of the movie, I suggest you go watch it yourself. It's spooky, entertaining, and an overall fun time. But it's not what I'm here to talk about. I want to focus on Jason himself, his character, world building, design, and why I think this remake does such a great job with him. Starting with the abandoned house in the woods, I adore how this was adapted. It perfectly captures all the key points from the original, while also not looking like somebody's first attempt at building a Minecraft house. But what I really appreciate about it is the fact that it's an actually important location. Unlike the original shack, which only appears in Part 2 and briefly in Part 3. This is a place Jason frequently returns to throughout the movie. It's his house, after all. The movie also goes out of its way to ground Jason. And while that's something I usually don't appreciate in media, as it often ruins the fantastical and creative nature of a character in favor of realism, I think it's done really well here, since it expands on his character instead of limiting it. For example, an iconic trait of slasher villains is their ability to quickly show up at the right place, ready to attack. This always comes off as the slasher teleporting for the sake of convenience. In this remake, however, they actually explain that Jason has a system of underground tunnels, through which he travels around the entire zone of Crystal Lake. Not only is this really smart and makes for a unique new location, but it also plays into the idea that Jason is like a wild animal. Another core element of every Friday movie that gets expanded upon are the creative kills. Jason will use anything in his environment to kill his victims, often making for some insane deaths. In fact, this is even seen in the new short film, where Jason uses a boat motor to shred somebody's head to pieces, or an apple slicer to cut a girl's face. In the remake, Jason uses his iconic machete, hunting tools like a bow, and even bear traps placed across the map. Hell, he's even got emergency lights set up around his house and alarms in different POIs to ensure that he's in complete and total control of his surroundings. If it wasn't clear enough, this guy is an insanely efficient killer who is always one step ahead of everyone, which is also perfectly fitting for somebody who's been living in the woods for 20 years. He's gonna know this place like the back of his hand. When it comes to Jason's personality, something that a lot of people seem to ignore is the psychological side to his character. Jason has a deep and disturbed obsession with his mother, going as far as to keep a shrine in her honor, holding her decapitated, rotten head inside. His love is what drives him to kill, mistaking anyone who sets foot in Crystal Lake as one of the counselors who took his mother away. Small side note, but even something as superficial as sex, which is kind of a joke in the slasher genre, becomes a deep part of Jason's backstory, as it reminds him of the teenagers who let him drown as a kid. Back to the point, Jason's love is commonly depicted through the use of his iconic which is sampled from Pamela whispering
Kill her, mommy, kill her.
in part 1 while referring to the final girl in that movie. While the sound isn't used in the remake, the message still comes through the phrase "kill for mother" at the end of the opening credits. What really expands upon Jason's obsession comes into play in the second half of the movie. Spoiler alert, the final girl from the beginning is still alive and is being held captive in the underground tunnels. Although never stated, it's heavily implied and shown that the only reason she's not dead is because the necklace she's wearing fools Jason into thinking that she's his mother. This is very clearly a reference to part 2, where Ginny wears Pamela's sweater to trick Jason into letting his guard down. While I do wish we got more of this, I still appreciate the remake for making a bigger effort than most Friday movies. I believe things like this are what separate Jason from other iconic slashers, allowing his character more depth while still being a ruthless killer, which I believe is especially important when the source material was meant to be a knockoff of Halloween. Finally, let's talk about Jason's design. I gotta admit, it took me a while, but this guy has really grown on me. I'm not usually a fan of Jason wearing jackets, but this long shredded one looks badass. The rest of his outfit is pretty basic, but the addition of dirt and holes makes him look pretty rough. Something this remake does is referencing the bag head from part 2, by having Jason's face be wrapped in bandages for the first half of the movie. I gotta say, I love this look for him. It's a great way of adapting that design while also looking intimidating. I just wish they actually changed his outfit to go with it. The fact that the only thing changing is his mask feels kind of lazy, but honestly, that's just a nitpick. I still love this guy. The hockey mask looks great too. I don't have much to say, it's just a classic design with some dirt on it. Where I think it really shines is the inclusion of his eyes. Most designs, including the modern Jason Universe one, make his eye sockets pitch black, which I'm not a big fan of. Being able to see his eyes gives the viewer hope that what hides behind the mask is a human being, something familiar that could help us see Jason as anything more than just a monster, which makes the reveal of his disfigured face all the more impactful. The only time you don't see his eyes is whenever he's under cinematic lighting. Almost like all of his humanity is stripped away right before killing someone in cold blood. It temporarily takes away your ability to recognize this creature as one of your own. Speaking of his face, I love how it looks. Originally, I thought the blind eye might have been a reference to what happens in part 4, but considering it's also in his young counterpart, I'm not too sure. And while I'm not usually a fan of Jason with long hair, I think it works really well here, especially because he's blonde, making it harder to see it sometimes. In conclusion, while the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th isn't a cinematic masterpiece, it does an incredible job at adapting and expanding upon the character of Jason Voorhees, making him insanely strong and intimidating without relying on the plot point of being a zombie like the later movies. I absolutely cannot get enough of this guy. If you'd like to hear why I think part 6 is the best movie in the series, please let me know in the comments. And if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe as always, and please let me know which Jason is your favorite. I'd love to hear your takes. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves and happy Halloween!